Let's start off talking about housing affordability. I think you think that this is something that affects quite a small part of the population, but it's dominating conversations, especially when you look at how resale prices, they've been climbing for 16 straight months. We hear about all these $1 million public flats. How much pressure are they under to tackle this?
To be honest, I believe that the housing affordability issue has been studied and analyzed to death for 3 decades or so. Housing, as in public housing, if you buy from the government, a BTO, built to order flat, it is affordable. The problem is that it gets outsized attention about resale flats, which is a different category, and where foreign money, as in permanent residents, and also the rest of the market that's not capped by income, can participate in that. And so that's where we have this issue. And that's where, again, we don't have a linear kind of relationship between what the problem is and what sort of attention it is getting. So it will be an issue for the incoming Prime Minister, but I believe that to focus too much and too much resources being thrown at this, looking after the lower income, which I think they are already quite well taken care of, may divert resources from the middle and upper middle income, who is now feeling the pressure because of inflation and because of job insecurity.
Okay, in balancing this, we know that the new leader is no stranger to the housing portfolio. He spent time as the Minister of National Development. What do you think he's going to bring to the table on housing policy?
Well, I guess he's going to look at all the set of measures again, the cooling measures, as to whether some have outlived their usefulness. And I don't think he'll rather recalibrate some of these measures. But he has a mind of his own. But a mind of his own, well, that's expected for any leader, and a leader has to have a mind of his own. But if he has a mind of his own, once he made up his decision, then he will likely to stick with those decisions.
Okay, we're also seeing how the luxury market in Singapore in recent years earned a reputation as a place where the ultra-rich foreigners came to park their wealth. We saw a property tax double to 60%, targeting Chinese foreigners. How has that affected demand, if at all? And do you see spillover to other parts of the market?
It has not spilled over to the mass market and mid-tier market. It has affected the luxury segment of the market, in particular, the super luxury segment of the market, something that we at Savills coin as property that is priced $3,000 per square feet and above. That's in Sing dollars. It has affected that severely. But the good thing is that had not been that many launches of late, and so we don't really see that impact. But on the resale market, transactions for such properties have been ultra thin.
What about when we look further into the future for Singapore and how we gauge public housing demand? I mean, the demographics are also shifting. We're seeing an aging population.
Yes.
On one side, we're also seeing how upward mobility means that first-time home buyers are skipping public housing altogether. They're going into the private market. What's that going to mean for public housing demand?
I think a lot of things need to be relooked at for the public housing market. And the issues of whether is there an overconsumption of housing, whether is property somehow that psyche that property would be the only way to make money, and if you don't buy a property now for your future generations, they will not be able to afford it. Those things, I think, have to be really erased from the blackboard. I think we have to really look at if public housing is to remain as it is, and population is aging, advice to go deeper into real estate investments may not be the right direction, because as the population ages, they should be liquid. They should be keeping their savings liquid rather than keeping it illiquid. So that narrative about to sow fear that if you don't buy now for your next generation, they will not be able to afford it, that has to be seriously relooked.
I think the thinking behind that is really what's driven this property boom in Singapore that is defying what we're seeing globally among financial hubs. Do you think Singapore can continue dodging the worst of the property downturn?
Well, Singapore could dodge the property downturn, not only in the residential market and also the office market, but two different sectors, different dynamics. The private market, because of the total debt service ratio, right, and large pools of savings coming from the generation that was born in the 50s to 1990, they have enough savings And so they could overcome all these issues and of global recession, etc. So that's the reason why we saw demand coming back from the funds stored in the reservoir of savings from the past generations.
Amid all this, though, we keep hearing how the Fed pivot might be delayed. Do you think that's going to affect demand in Singapore?
It will affect demand, but not in the ways that most people think. Many will think that it's because of high interest rates, and so that will hit your mortgage payments, and lower affordability. It's the other way around. Because of the narrative that interest rates are low, why keep your money in the fixed deposit or the saving or other investments when you can buy a property and earn an income, a rental yield, and capital gain? And so, as a result, this high interest rates means less money will be diverted to real estate investments.
Okay, what about the rental market? We saw it surge, especially during the pandemic, and how, after the lifting of curbs, that was a really hot market. Is that in any way affecting the way that Singapore competes for foreign talent?
The foreign talent thing now should be redefined. I think it's in the process of being redefined. Because of generative artificial intelligence, we don't know whether there's any need to actually house that many foreigners or talent in a particular city. They could be working out of home, out of a resort, of any city in the world, and the woke generation will be more of the Gen Zs, the Zoomers, the Alphas in future will be more willing to have that freedom. So rents are coming down, so that's a good thing. And hopefully it would be, that message will spread to the expatriate community who have intentions of coming to Singapore.
All things considered, Singapore's housing model is held up as one of success. What do you think it's going to look like decades from now?
I hope it remains the same. The last thing we want is that private housing converges in the resale market to public housing, and that would have unintended, unimagined, unforeseen consequences, unforeseeable consequences for everyone, including policymakers. Because once you let the open the Pandora's box, you don't know what links to this or that.
Right.
That makes it more difficult. It's better to keep it simple.